Hey guys, Steve here. Thank you for watching this video. So guys, in this video, I want to share with you one of the most important habit that I have developed during my journey as an entrepreneur. And this is something that I have been building for a while. But this year, I've taken this habit to a whole new level in 2024, and I have seen amazing results. And I wanted to just share my takeaways and my findings with you and some of the do's and don'ts that I have come to rely upon that works very well for me. So this is a habit that I do when conducting meeting with either with my team, with my life partner, my business partner, or with a client, or even with a family member that I try to do whenever I could. If I get into any kind of a meeting or discussion, I try to do this. I used to kind of just do this sporadically, but this year I have started to do that religiously. Like literally, I try to do this as much as I can. Whenever I start to notice that, oh, we're getting into some kind of a discussion, I try to do this as much as I can. And so this habit is taking notes during a meeting. Okay. So you could take note using like I have a paper pad here and you see this one is really well written. There's a lot of notes here. Or you can take notes using I use my iPad. So I use an app here called Good Notes on the Apple iPad. I use this for quite some time now. And I wanted to share with you, and I have my little Google Doc here with the notes I wanted to share with you, some of the key takeaways. There are four main reasons and four benefits I've found that taking notes during a meeting, it is so rewarding and so important. So reason number one, or the benefit number one, and that is it instantly raises your credibility with whoever it is that you are having a meeting with or having a discussion with. So you see, guys, most people, when they're having a discussion with anyone else, and I'm talking just the general public, right? Most people that I've seen, they don't take any kind of notes. They literally just like, okay, having a conversation, maybe they have eye contact and such, they have discussions back and forth. But most of the time, they're not taking notes. They're literally just like dependent on their memory to kind of like essentially remember the conversation and to respond, right? And also to rely on the memory, the brain to process the topics that was discussed during the conversation, come up with what to say, and also remember all the things that are discussed, right? I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do that. It's kind of like what the general public does. But as you can see, when most people are doing this is when most people run into problems. I guess it works if it's like a casual conversation. It's not a very serious conversation. It's not a very important conversation. You don't have to take notes, let's say, if it's like a casual conversation. But often, if you're in a work meeting, if you're discussing this with your team, if you're having a team meeting, you're discussing this with your team members or with your partner, with a client, a potential prospect, or with a vendor, as soon as you start taking notes, right away, I think they will start to take you more seriously. They will start to take you as somebody that actually believe that they are important enough, or what they say is important enough to take notes. So instantly, I think that helps to build rapport and help to start to build, to improve that relationship between whoever it is that you're talking to, whether you met them for the first time or whether there's somebody you work for years or you have associated for years. As soon as you start taking notes, they're going to start to realize, they're going to start to, I believe, and I've confirmed this with my partner when I do that, they start to have better feelings about having meeting with you, because they see that number one, you take them seriously enough that you're going to take that extra effort to literally spend energy to write things down, which takes a lot of energy. And truthfully, all of us are lazy, right? In one way or another. I mean, if we could, we don't have to spend the extra energy to find a pen and paper, to open up my iPad and start writing stuff down. I have to focus on writing things down while listening, while talking to the person. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy, right? Most people rather not do that if they can just say, oh, okay, I'll just remember everything. But then when they see that this person is actually taking the time to write it down, right away, it makes you stand out as someone special, okay, above the crowd. Because the general crowd is, we don't take notes because it's a lot of work. And we're generally, most people, well, everybody have lazy intent, right? Lazy tendency that we're trying to overcome. So right away, first benefit is the person will start to take you seriously. The person will start to have positive sentiments towards you. The person may even appreciate the fact that you are taking the effort to write notes down, because they might not have encountered many people that will be willing to actively take notes while they talk, and make them also feel more important. It will also make them potentially be more careful and more intentional on what they say, since there's somebody writing what they say down. So they might not want to say things that are not thought through. Maybe they'll take you more seriously as well. So when you start taking notes, they start to realize you're taking them more seriously, and often they will start to take you more seriously. I've also often heard in masterminds, in mentoring sessions, on successful entrepreneurs who are in the mid to high seven-figure businesses, eight-figure businesses. There's a number of them that have indicated, that I've expressed, that often when they are having a meeting with someone else, they often observe if the other person takes notes or not. Okay, because if the person is not taking notes and they're listening, just like, okay, just listening, and they already know, and we already know this, is that our memory is not really like as dependable as we would like them to be, especially if we're all busy entrepreneurs. Our schedule is busy. We have so much things that's on our plate all the time. There's a lot of stuff that we need to keep track of, or we need to be a member of. Those of us who have lived this life for quite some time knows that we want to keep our mind as clear as possible, so that we reserve those energies to deal with situations, to solve problems, instead of remembering those problems. I'd rather have a system to record them, so I don't have to remember them on my head. Okay, I put them in list, I put them in some kind of a format, so I can always retrieve it. I know where to find them. This way I can just get it off my mind and reserve my mind for the more important things to deal with. So often now I've heard, and I'm not sure if this is true, but there was one mastermind session I went to, not sure if this is true or not, but Sir Richard Branson of Virgin, there was this one mentor that I was in a session with, and he indicated that he had a meeting with Sir Richard Branson. Halfway through the conversation, Sir Richard Branson says, "Hey, how come you're not taking notes?" And then the guy says, "Well, I'm remembering everything in my head." And then Sir Richard Branson says, "You know what? Find a notebook and take notes, because I don't work with people who don't take notes." I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what that person said, but this is what I remember. And I'm not sure it's 100% true, but knowing the life that we go through, knowing the amount of information and the amount of things that's on our plate that we have to think about all the time, I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually one of the standards, one of the rules that individuals operating in those high levels, high performance levels would do, because simply they know how hard it is to track everything. And they will probably look for that kind of trait, that kind of habits, to have already been built in people that they work with. It's almost like a test, if you will. So that's the first reason I believe is a great benefit for taking notes during a meeting. Now, the second reason, this one's more obvious, I guess, would be that it could help you to track important information, right? Important conclusions, important topics, important takeaways during the discussion. Either it's through collaboration, either it's something that the other parties have discussed and you wanted to take down for as takeaways. Instead of having a meeting and not taking notes during the meeting, and then after the meeting, then say, oh, okay, there's some stuff I got to remember, and then take out a laptop, type them down, where you need to spend more time after the meeting to take notes down. And you might not remember everything after the meeting, so you might miss stuff. You're literally taking notes as you are having the meeting. Okay, this could save you time, so that by the time the meeting ends, all your notes are already done, and you literally just like, okay, you can just circle or highlight whatever it is that's important and say, okay, the main takeaways are these. I got to remember. Actionable, you can just literally just actionable, this thing, done. You don't have to like spend half an hour type stuff out. It's just more efficient that way. So number three is particularly useful if the people that you're discussing, you're having a meeting with, is asking you questions. So there's multiple things you can do here. So if they're asking a question, you could literally just write a few words about what the question is about. Or as they're asking the question, you can literally start writing the answers down, or a couple of words to help you remember what you want to answer. And also, if let's say they're asking multi-part questions where they say, hey, so I wanted to know this and this and this, and by the way, what happened if this and this and this. If they're saying multiple stuff, if in one question it's actually like loaded, it's actually 5 questions in one. Sometimes like if you just like remember that in your head, it might be hard to keep track. Okay, he's asked like 5 things in here. Which one should I answer? And while the orders that you answer, you might not be able to keep all of them track. But if you like just write down, let's say you just write a couple of words down for each question that he's asking, right? Then it's on paper and you can literally just look at them and say, okay, I'm going to answer this first. I'm going to answer that next. I'm going to answer that next. If it's on paper or on iPad, whatever is in front of you, then you won't have to worry about remembering it. And you can literally write these down. And then before you answer, you can literally just write simple words of what the answers you want to answer down as well. So if that's the case, this could be a really helpful tool for you to write down questions or write down answers. okay, before you answer them. It's almost like you can put a little simple draft, if you will, of the answer, help you put together, help you map out an answer on paper before you answer it, help you organize it. And sometimes I find if I have it in front of you, I'm very visual. It helps me to be able to kind of like plan it out, visualize how I want to structure my answer. And then the end result is my answer will become more complete. It will become more structured. It will become easier to understand. And again, that will help to gain more credibility, more satisfaction, and make the meeting more effective to the parties involved. So that's the third benefit, is you can write down questions or you can write down answers. And now I have the fourth benefit here. This is actually the one that surprised me the most because I started realizing that this year. So number 1, 2, 3, I've been using that for years, but I haven't been really taking notes in every meeting. But this fourth reason is the reason where I'm starting to try to take notes every single meeting. Okay. And this fourth reason is it can actually help keep you emotionally calm and collected and neutral during the discussion. It actually have the effect to keep you calm, keep you emotionally neutral for the discussion. So how does it do that? So this is something I realized by accident. So my life partner, Mia, is also my business partner, okay, in the companies that we have formed. And we often have meetings on a daily basis. And because we are life partners and we've been together for a long time, and as you know, life partners, there are often topics like even though we're discussing things that are business. So if those of you, if you're working with your life partner in your business, you might know what I mean, where sometimes when we're discussing a business topic, it could trigger certain things that could be related to a certain history that we have in the past, where I could get triggered for certain topics that makes me a little bit more either anxious or stressed or negative in any way. If you have any kind of long-term relationships, there's always certain assumptions and prejudice and biases that was built during the journey together. And often as we evolve, we kind of have to reset those expectations and journeys like, oh, he's not patient, or, oh, she's kind of, she doesn't think things through that much, or, oh, he's kind of careless, or whatever it is, right? But then as we grow, we become better at almost everything that we do, right? Hopefully. And we may be certain ways before, but we're no longer that way. But the person might still remember us or having certain reactions based on some memories in the past. So long story short, during a meeting, often we can become stressed or anxious. Or if the topic is somewhat sensitive, let's say if I made a mistake, and whoever it is that's meeting with me, it could be my team member, it could be my partner, is basically saying that it's my fault. That could generate certain negative emotions. Or let's say if we're trying to diagnose a problem, and let's say we believe that person made a mistake, or there's like a difference of opinion, for example, and the other person believes very strongly against what you believe in, sometimes that discussion can get heated and it could trigger certain negative emotions that flares up. Especially if you already had a bad day that day, it can be compounded because you might have entered this discussion in a negative emotional state already, and it literally just stacks on top of that. And you could have like an emotional outburst, not because of the topic that was discussed, but maybe because you already had a bad day and you're like up to here kind of thing, right? So this actually happens a lot in the past when I have meetings with my partner. Is there's a certain way that she preferred to solve problems, and often that's at times it's not the same as the way I would prefer to solve problems, and we have different approaches. Not to say one is right or one is wrong, it's just a different approach. Both ways can get there. But sometimes, let's say if we want consistency and we're like, okay, can we consolidate that into maybe a one uniform approach so it's consistent? At times, we might have difference of opinion on what's important. This could get emotional at times. We could actually get into an emotional argument in the past. But what I notice is when I have a notebook in front of me, and if let's say she or he is making a point that is something I disagree, and then there's certain emotions triggered negatively. In the past, I might get anxious or stressed where I literally would interrupt that person, interrupt my partner, and say, whoa, 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 that's not the case. Oh, wait. I'm not sure if I agree with that. Now, that's a bad habit of interrupting people. Many of us do that. And I do that, and I hate it when I do that. And every time I do that, the person who I talk to, and often it's my partner, will be like, she will start to be negatively affected as well. Because when you interrupt someone, number one, that's very unpleasant. Number two, it's disrespectful, right? It means that you don't even have the courtesy of letting them speak, complete what they're saying. Wait until they finish before you respond. You literally just cut them off, right? Or I cut them off. They could be very negatively affected, and that would decrease the efficiency of the meeting. But what I noticed was, let's say she said something or he said something that I did not agree. Instead of the urge to say, whoa, 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 wait a second, that's blah, 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 whatever it is, right? I just take down my pen and I literally just start writing down, wait, that's not right. I don't agree with that. I did not do that, or that's not the right way to do it. Or what about this thing? This doesn't solve this problem. This doesn't address this issue. Whatever it is that I was going to argue against, right? I literally, instead of saying it, I write it on the paper or on my iPad. So this is the thing, that something magical happens when I do that, is after I write it down. So when I'm writing down, I feel I'm emotional when I'm writing down, and I feel like I'm depositing my emotion on the paper. And after I wrote it down, what's very interesting is in about 30 seconds or so after, I feel like I don't feel that emotion anymore. It's almost like I have deposited that emotion on my notebook or my iPad. And when I look at what I wrote, like for example, I wrote here, I actually literally wrote here, WTF, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. So, do you want me to fix the system or not? Question mark, question mark, question mark. The system is, and I had like SHIT, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. I am just calling it out for what it is. So this is literally what I wrote here on my notebook, right? On my iPad. But this would have been something I might have like, I probably won't use those words, exact words, but those were actually how I was feeling at that moment. And if I didn't write this down, I probably would have just blurred out, instinctively reacted. I probably won't use like, WTF and these words, but I might have said something that's gonna still upset the person. And not to mention, I'm gonna interrupt the person's talk halfway and literally just like, cut in, which is obviously not something we want to do. But once I wrote these down, number one, I don't feel this emotion anymore. Number two, I actually started laughing because I think like, oh my gosh, these wording a little strong. I actually don't feel it's this bad. Because when when we're under emotions, the stuff that we say, it's usually over exaggerated in a negative way, right? But after that emotion passes and you look at what you wrote, remember what we said, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I wish I didn't say that. When we're calm and collected and our senses came back, we're like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. I'm so regretful I did, but damage is done. Well, guess what? I wrote down my iPad. I never said those words. Instead, I deposited here. And it helped to transfer all that negative emotion. I expressed it out. I achieved the same result without actually doing the damage. And when I look at these words, I can then say, well, I actually don't want to say those. Even though I felt them, I don't feel them anymore. So how can I address that in a way that's a lot more easier to hear? Okay, a lot more reasonable, a lot more civil. And also, because I've already reacted on my notebook, I now have my emotion return back down to a more calm state where I can continue to hear, to listen, and not interrupt my partner when he or she's talking, even if she is still saying things that I disagree with. I no longer feel threatened or feel wrongly accused or feel like I was misunderstood or feel like I need to defend myself. I need to be able to set the record straight. Well, I still do want to have all of those things to make sure that there's no misunderstanding on their end, that we're on the same page. I still feel there's a need to do that, but it's no longer that urgent with that emotional urgency. I no longer have the emotional urgency. And I could say, okay, well, no worries. I could wait. I can address this after she finished talking. And literally, I can still keep my smiling face, even though I wrote down all these emotional stuff on my notebook. It's like I was never angry, or I was never upset, or I was never stressed or anxious. I'm calm. That was something I've never experienced before until this year when I tried it. I tried to write down my emotions on my note in a meeting. I never did that before. But it is so magical when that happens. So once I tried that one time and I'm like, oh, wow, I don't feel the anger anymore. And that meeting, usually meetings like that, if negative emotional trigger and it started interrupting the conversation, it many times often turns into a negative argument and ends up not well, as you would know. Like because of an argument, sometimes we become a verbal fight and it's just not productive. It's so emotionally draining and energetically draining for both of us. And we have to spend time to be able to recover ourselves and recover our relationships, and just a lot of energy unnecessarily spent. But when I do this, that discussion, which would have turned into a bad argument and ended poorly, actually ended in a very harmonious way, which both of us were surprised because we were both expecting this will turn into an argument. And we'll just like, okay, we'll just agree to disagree, okay? And let's just stop talking because we want to get in a fight. Like literally, that would have been what happened. It never became that. In fact, it actually came to a point where I'm able to thank her and say, hey, listen, thank you for letting me know about this. I didn't know that that's what you thought, even though that's not what I believe is true. I still appreciate the fact that you're able to let me know this. Okay, I would rather you feel safe, okay, to let me know your thoughts without being fearful that I may not agree and that I might get angry or get upset, and then you will be negatively affected. I'd rather you feel that you are 100% safe to be able to express what you think. And then that we can still have a very productive and harmonious discussion, because nobody really wants a negative discussion. And that was something that was not easy for me to do before, but writing down emotions in the meeting, it is like magical for me. It's almost like a therapist. It's like my iPad is my therapist. It's like I'm dumping stuff into there and it completely empties all my negative stuff out and allows me to be able to almost like observe myself, observe my thoughts, observe my emotions, and actually be able to say, hey, this is not serving me. I'm going to let this go. I like this. I'm going to reward this and be able to express this. It's great. It's amazing. So this is the one thing I really wanted to share with you. I'm not sure if there's anybody who talks about it. I've never heard anybody talk about this. And I only found out this myself by accident. But I would highly encourage you to try it out if you have any kind of meeting with any discussion with anyone that you find yourself maybe getting anxious or stressed from time to time, and you might be like interrupting people, or you might be talking in a way that's like more emotionally charged in a negative way, and you're noticing other people started like getting defensive or getting visually like uncomfortable when you're talking. I know because I do that, and I do notice when I get emotionally charged and when I'm talking not in an emotionally neutral way. And I've experiences from other people too. When the person is talking in an emotion charged way, a lot of times it becomes difficult to hear, difficult to receive, because we're not only receiving the spoken information, we're also absorbing their energy, right? Their emotional energy. And unless that energy is very loving and positive and friendly, sometimes even like passion, when they call passion, it could be perceived as very invasive. It could be very forceful. It could be very harsh that we might not be aware of. It will diminish our ability to convey our message to whoever it is we're talking to. I know a lot of us who are at times passionate. We call it passionate, but sometimes we just like we can get emotional. It's just because we are anxious in conveying that message. We get so anxious we started conveying a negative emotion to that person as well. And that actually has negative unintended consequences that we might not realize. If we're able to use a tool like a notepad to help us deposit negative emotions, anxiety, and stress during the meeting onto the notepad, then it could help us keep calm and cool and collected. And the end result is anything that we wanted to convey in the conversation or in the meeting, it is often, as I find, much more easily accepted and received when we communicate that in a very calm, cool, collected tone, as opposed to like, hey, this is really important. If we're like talking in a very like excited or emotional way, sometimes the person will say, whoa, dude, take it easy. Like, whoa, relax. Like if they get distracted, they even get defensive, they get overwhelmed, not by the info, but by the, me and partner calls this emotional leakage. Okay. And a lot of time it's just stress energy unintentionally being leaked to be projected to the other person without us realizing we're doing that. That often hurt us quite a bit. I know that for us, from a personal perspective, being able to be just calm and collected, it's just so much better. So these are the 4 reasons I believe that the 4 main benefit of taking notes when you're having a meeting with someone, especially in an in-person meeting. So you see in a Zoom meeting, if you're taking notes, the person might not know I'm taking notes, right? Or if I'm typing, they might not know I'm typing. So it might not have that effect of them seeing, oh wow, you're typing. Like it might have the problem of like, oh man, why are you not looking at me at the camera? Why are your head down? So if you're taking notes in a meeting, you might want to let them know, like in a Zoom meeting or Microsoft Teams meeting, you might want to let them know that, hey, by the way, my head's down because I'm taking notes while you're talking. Okay, if you don't mind, just let them know so that they're like, oh, okay, so you're not like, ignoring me when I'm talking. You're not disrespecting when I'm talking to, when they're talking to us. So that's really important. But if you're having an in-person meeting, then this is very helpful because they will literally see that you're writing. It's very helpful. Also, I wanted to just point out on this 4th point that I find that there are 3 ways that writing notes during a meeting help me reduce my anxiety and stress. So in other words, I've discovered there are 3 ways I can get stressed, I can gain stress or anxiety during a meeting. And being able to write notes and deposit my emotions on my notebook helps me solve all 3 cases where I might have increased stress or tension or anxiety. Okay. So here are the 3 ways that I can have anxiety or stress. And this could happen to you. You can let me know if this happens to you as well. So number 1 is I could get anxiety, I could get anxious if during the conversation, there was a lot of important topic that was covered. There's a lot of important takeaways that was covered that I needed to remember. But if I don't have I don't have a notebook or anything in front of me, or I'm not have a laptop, I'm typing away. And I'm just trying to remember, I'm using my memory. I'm like, oh my God, there's like 20 things I gotta remember. And I'm only remembering like 7 or 8 or 4 or 5 of them. And I'm afraid like I don't remember all of them. The fact that as the meeting is ongoing and like there are these things that new information still continue to be uncovered that I need to remember, I will start to get anxious simply because there may be too much information that are important to keep track to remember that I'm afraid I might forget. And that will increase my stress or anxiety level during it. And without me realizing that actually can affect the quality of the whole meeting or the result of the whole meeting. Okay, if I get to a point where I start having emotional leakage and start getting emotional to speak with the other person, that could negatively affect that person and have a bad outcome. So that's number 1. The number 2 way I can get anxiety or emotional is when at times during a conversation, right? There could be, sometimes it's like a brainstorming session and new good ideas comes out. Sometimes the other person says something like, oh, wow, I never thought of that way. Wait, I could apply this in this new way to my business. Yeah, I definitely need to do that. So you came up with a great insight and you're like, oh, shoot, I got to write this down or I got to remember this. But let's say you got a number of things you're trying to remember already. That's what an example where I could start to get anxious. As soon as I have a great idea that came up, I want to make sure I remember this after a meeting. If I don't write it down, I could start to get anxious because I'm afraid I might forget because this meeting could still take another God knows how long, right? And the third way is during the conversation and the person is speaking, a thought came up that I wanted to express to that person. It could be an important thought to add to what the person is talking about right now, or it could be something I want to refute or rebuttal or disagree with what they're saying. But if I didn't write it down, then I notice that my anxiety level start to rise if that person continues to talk and I don't have a chance to interrupt or reply back. The longer I wait, the more stressful or anxiety I could get because I'm afraid that I might forget the point I wanted to make or trying to express to that person, the longer I'm waiting for that person to finish. And also this causes me to be distracted because I'm trying to remember the information. I might not be able to continue taking the information that person talked to me well after that thought's been generated. But if I write the thought down, if I write my reply down, if I want to write whatever it is I want to tell that person, then right away, oh, okay, I can keep listening and keep absorbing because I don't have to worry about that thought going away or being forgotten. It's already on my paper. And that person can still keep talking. I could even mention this at the very end of the meeting if needed, and I don't have to worry about forgetting it. So massively reduces my anxiety on that aspect. Okay, so there are 3 ways that a person could get more anxious in a meeting emotionally without them realizing. Okay, and that can lead to bad habits of interrupting other people when they're speaking, lead them to start to talk emotionally and make other people uncomfortable, and actually reduces the ability for them to communicate their idea because that person gets distracted due to the emotions that was conveyed, and just help you become a much better listener. Yeah, actually, that's it. It makes me a much better listener because I interrupt less. I'm able to listen and stay quiet and listen because anything I wanted to say, anything I come up with, I just write them down. I can keep quiet the whole way through. And it just makes me much better. I think that's probably one of the secrets, one of the tools to becoming a great listener is take notes. Because this way you won't have to worry about interrupting that person because you will forget. So I've covered 4 benefits, right? 4th one being the most surprising one that I found starting this year. Oh, one more thing I want to mention about the 4th one, which is the ability for it to help us keep cool, right? Keep calm and collected. So this will be, I feel, even more applicable for online coaches. If you do one-on-one or one-to-many, this could be especially helpful if you build this habit. And I have found that in many online coaching sessions, if you're coaching your client, if your client is an entrepreneur, or it doesn't even have to be an entrepreneur, the client could often in a session be in a negative emotional state, right? Because they are expressing the issue that they're facing. And sometimes if that issue is significant, certain negative feelings could be triggered, when they're trying to explain those issues to you during the session. And when those negative feelings gets triggered and comes out, that could in turn negatively affect you in a way that triggers negative emotions in you as well. So that's why often I find that as coaches doing an online coaching session, it's important to either you do meditation, you have doing some breath work, you do some kind of a ritual to help you, ground, to be able to help you stay calm and collected and neutral so that you could hold the space for your clients to be able to dump their issues, their emotions, whatever it is that they are trying to explain, because you have opened up and held space for them to be able to do that without you being affected or visibly being affected. Even though you might be affected internally, the fact that you're holding that space for that person to be able to express is very therapeutic in itself and also can help you achieve the results of coaching that person as best as, even more so if you can keep calm and collected, and the ability to be able to deposit thoughts, emotions, replies, takeaways on paper or on your notes as you're going through and help you continue to dump emotions on and help you stay emptied and hold the space for them could become very, very helpful. So the last part I wanted to cover is basically, so what are some of the quick tips in terms of taking notes, right? So first one will be, okay, what do I use to take notes? Well, simple, it's just any kind of notebook, any kind of notepad or anything, even just paper, a pen, that's good enough. If you want to have it collected, then I suggest if you have a notebook or even if you have an iPad, there's a lot of note-taking apps that's out there for different platforms, Android, Apple. I use GoodNotes. It's been using that for several years. It's very, very helpful. You can even put kind of a screen cover that's kind of like, it feels like paper. So you're not writing on glass because, iPad has got the glassy surface, so it's kind of slippery. It doesn't feel like it's writing on paper. You can actually put like a screen protector that's kind of rough on the surface, and so it simulates like a paper-like feeling. Okay, so I actually have something like that on this. I think you can get that from Amazon. I can put the link below, so you can also click the link below to find it, and also the link to the app that I use. But it's been very helpful. Okay, so you can use either a paper or an app, a tablet to use. And also another question is, when you're taking notes, you write everything down. So my suggestion is you don't have to actually write everything down when you have the meeting. You could literally just write a couple of words, a couple of keywords that can help you jog your memory. Okay. Or if you're coming up with, let's say you're writing answers to a question, you can even just write 2-3 words to kind of like help you quickly summarize what is it that you wanted to answer. And then you can literally just, when sometimes you answer, you can just look at, oh, let's say there's three questions that they ask and you're answering all 3 things at once. Then you can say, maybe for every question that you're answering, you can write 2-3 words down that can help you jog the memory of what you want to, the details of what you want to answer in each question. You can write down emotions if they're negative. You can even write down emotions if they're happy. Okay. And then that can remind you to congratulate them. Okay. To thank them. Okay. To express your gratitude when it's time for you to speak. Definitely writing down new ideas that come up with, new takeaways, new action items, or new insights during the meeting. You can write down just a few keywords about the things that you want to say to them, but they're still talking right now and you can't really, it's not your time to speak yet. You want to wait until they finish. Then you can write it down as they're speaking. Okay. And you won't have to worry about forgetting it. It lowers your anxiety level. Also, things that you don't agree with them, you can write those down. So this way, again, that will lower your anxiety level as well, because you know that you already wrote it down on paper. That emotion, you don't have to hold that within you anymore. That's basically it. Please let me know if this has been a helpful video for you, and if you have similar experiences with having stress or anxiety issues, potentially from time to time when you're having meetings with loved ones or with business partners, with clients and such. Let me know if you find this video helpful and what are your biggest takeaways on this video. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe to our channel, as we're going to continue to put out more content that we find to be the things that we have learned in our journey of our entrepreneurship journey that we wish other people have told us in the past, or I wish I have learned earlier. We'll be just recording the best of what we have learned in our channels to share with our fellow entrepreneur community. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon in the next video. Take care.